Hi, I'm Dan, the Meeple Monkey, and I'm here today with a quick setup and basic rules explanation for the game Tang Garden by Thundergryph Games. Hope you enjoy. Okay, here we have the setup for a 3-player game of Tang Garden. So the first thing you'll do is you'll lay out the game board and take the central tile. It's double-sided. You can orient that any way you like and put that in the center space there. And then you'll take each of the stacks of landscape tiles, separate them by their backs, and create a stack of 15 tiles. Place those on their designated spots of the board and flip the top tile like so. And you do that for the greenery tiles, the rock tiles, the water tiles, and the tower tiles, which will have a mix of different elements on the tiles and also some temples. Then you'll take some landscape tokens. You'll take 8 of the large landscape tokens, which have the mountain on the background, and you'll put them in the 2 central spots along each of the sides of the board. And you'll take the small landscape tokens, which have the picture of the house, and put those in those spots just diagonally adjacent to them in the same pattern around the board. So you have a pattern like that. If you're playing a 2-player game, these 2 tiles will be in here, but you'll swap. So the small landscape tiles will be in the center and the large landscape tiles will be on the outside, and it will be a smaller circle of landscape tokens. You then take the large landscapes and the small landscapes. There should be 8 large landscapes and I believe 12 of the small landscapes. You take 4 of those small landscapes at random and place them out in the central spot for the small landscapes. Then you take the remaining small landscapes and large landscapes. You make a stack and take the top landscape off each stack, place it in front, and that way you have 2 available landscapes of each type at the start of the game. You also take all the decoration elements and place them out in a display so that everyone can see them and reach them. You should have also a stack of the decoration cards just here. You'll also take your coins and place them in a central supply, or you might like to place them in a few different areas around the table so people can reach them, but you should have 20s, 10s, 5s, and 1s. You should also place the characters within easy reach, and also a number of character tokens per player count. So we have 3 for a 3-player game. You also take your character cards and look through the character cards for all the starting characters. And they're designated by these element symbols in the top corner. And you'll distribute one of those to each player. I believe that's what the official rule is. I suppose you could distribute, if you're playing a 3-player game, you could distribute 2 to each player and they could choose 1, but otherwise I think there's only 6 starting characters, so you wouldn't be able to do that necessarily in a 4-player game. You also give each player a player board and get them to place their elements in the 3 starting spots along the element tracks, and then give them a boost depending on which starting element they have. You'll also need to grab the corresponding character and place that on the starting character card. Each player should also place on their player board the 4 lantern tokens. So you should have a game board that looks like that when you're starting. Each of these characters will would have their element pushed across depending on their starting character. You also make sure that you lay out 2 characters to start with. First player, which according to the rules is the last person to visit China, will get the engineer's token, and they will be the first player of the game. And that's how you set up a game of Tang Garden. In the game of Tang Garden, players are engineers in China during the Tang Dynasty, and they've been tasked with building the most beautiful garden they can for the emperor. They will be competing for points, and in order to score the most points, they will be trying to build the garden in such a way as that it attracts the characters that they are influencing with the landscapes and features that those characters want to see. To do this, the players will be taking one of 2 main actions during their turn. They will either build the garden, which involves laying a tile, or they will be placing a decoration. When taking the build the garden action, players are primarily trying to influence characters. They do this by selecting a tile from one of the corners of the board, placing it onto the board so as to match certain element types. When those element types are matched, you get to increase your element track. And as you go up the element track, you will earn a new character every time all 3 of your cubes pass the point where a character icon is depicted. This will then allow you to place a new character onto the board, and depending on their site preferences, they will either be looking for certain features along the tiles in the direction they are looking in, or they will be looking for certain icons on the landscape backdrops in the direction they are looking in. These site preferences are depicted at the bottom of the character cards. The icon at the top of the card indicates the special bonus power that character gives you while it is active and not on the board. Placing tiles can also earn you coins, which are essentially points for matching footpaths, and they will also allow you to claim these landscape tokens if you place a tile in that space. And claiming these landscape tokens allows you to take a landscape of that type, either large or small, and place it onto the board in a spot that matches that landscape type. Again, either big or small. The last major point of placing tiles is to provide spaces that have these symbols that allow you to place the decorations onto the board. Placing decorations is the second major action you can do on your turn. If you do so, you draw 2 cards from the decoration stack, plus 1 for every corner stack that shows a face-down tile on top. Even though you might draw 4 cards, you are generally only allowed to choose 1 to place into the garden. When you draw your cards, the first thing you're going to check is the symbol in the top right-hand corner of the card. This will tell you what symbol you are looking for on the board to be able to place that decoration. In this case, we have each of these trees is looking for greenery, so they can be placed on the board because there are greenery spaces available. You might also look for a bonus that decoration gives you on the card just below that symbol. Most of the decorations involve some sort of set collection, whether they are pairs like the flowers, or animals, or a variety of trees. The pagodas you are trying to compete for the most of, and bridges just give you 2 points. The bridges and pagodas also provide placement spots for characters on the board. No matter which decoration you choose, you will take the decoration and place it on the board, and then take that card and place it in your player area to be scored at the end of the game. Besides these 2 major actions, players can also do a few special free actions in their turn, including triggering these bonus lantern tiles, which will give you a one-off power during the game, which can give you things like taking 2 decorations or tiles in a turn, or searching through the character or landscape decks. The game end is triggered if a tile stack runs out, or if there are ever only 3 landscape tokens left on the board. At game's end, each player will count up the number of coins they've earned throughout the game, and then any extra coins they are awarded based on set collection of their decorations, and also any points awarded for site preference of their characters, including any decorations they see in their line of sight as well. And the player who has the most coins or points at the end of the game is the winner. You gonna say anything? What are you gonna say?
Mommy.